The likes of Halloween, Psycho, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Scream, Sleepaway Camp, and Child's Play are some of the most recognizable horror slasher movie franchises. A ton of slasher movies are highly mocked, made fun of, and thought of as movies that are just made for the studios to make a quick buck. With that said, most horror fans like myself actually love this subgenre of horror, and we crave more of it. Recent movies like X, Scream 6, and Terrifier 2, to name a few, have destroyed the box office, and it's really no surprise. Before we talk about the recent research and why the slasher subgenre is the best in horror, let's talk about how it first came into fruition. Now, many people debate when the actual first slasher movie came out. There are some that would say Psycho or Peeping Tom was the first slasher, and some others will say Black Christmas. But one of the most influential that caused a big boom afterwards is John Carpenter's 1978 Halloween. The movie shot in only 20 days on a budget of a mere $300,000. The film went on to gross $47 million, which would be equivalent to $150 million today. The white mask killer, Michael Myers, terrorizes and brings havoc to 3 young teens in Haddonfield, Illinois. John Carpenter's Halloween was made with such a simple premise, yet the movie is shot well, perfectly paced, and has actual interesting characters. Halloween set the groundwork and layout for future horror slashers, many of them to copy the same layout, with most movies just changing a few things to make it their own. Many tropes that most people know for horror, like the killer being nearly indestructible, the final girl getting killed after sex, and so much more, are used in countless slasher movies, which started with Halloween. The best copycat of Halloween is Friday the 13th. Both films have a slow-walking killer, virgin final girl, death after sex, and a non-talking villain. Although I would debate with so many similarities, the movies are still so different, and that's what's great about it. Friday the 13th used some of what made Halloween successful and built its own movie that turned out to spawn a horror icon with Jason Voorhees. Slasher movies began popularity from the 70s up until the 90s before dying down a bit. The reason it died down was due to the fact that many of the beloved slashers like Jason, Freddy, Michael, and Leatherface all came out with some bad movies. It became repetitive, and most just came the same formula that was used, but it had already been seen so many times at that point. Audiences just became blown out by the bad horror slashers, and profits began to lower and lower with every sequel. I'll give you guys some examples. 1989 saw 3 of the slashers' biggest icons facing commercial failure. Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. In an attempt to reinvent the franchise, Paramount decided to take Jason out of Crystal Lake and change the atmosphere, deciding to put Jason in Manhattan, but unfortunately it was a box office bomb. The film grossed $14 million worldwide, making it the lowest of the franchise, which forced Paramount to sell the rights out to New Line Cinema. A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. This was a bit better than Jason Takes Manhattan, grossing only $8 million more. While both films I stated did poorly and were unsuccessful, nothing compares to the movie that put slashers on the map. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. This absolute mess of a movie failed to gain or release outside of North America due to its mere $11 million domestic gross. Though all movies still profited and continued to release stinkers, the stigma that these horror movies are trashy, dumb movies came into fruition for audiences. The only slashers that came out during this time were the already established franchises I stated. All horror movies are pretty much dead at this point, but in 1996, Wes Craven came out with Scream, which went on to make $103 million, making it the highest grossing movie for the slasher genre. This movie showed that there is still so much more that the slasher subgenre can give. Scream was meta, funny, and used tropes of the previous Halloween formula to enhance the film. The huge success led to more sequels and a little revival of slashers. Movies like Halloween H2O, Bride of Chucky, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and Jason X came out recently after. Now, a lot of them try to be meta and copy the likes of what Scream did, and although I think some succeeded, most audience watchers dislike the meta nature of these horror movies, finding them too goofy and not the same villain they once knew. Now, since the 2000s, not many slasher movies have come out compared to the 80s and 90s. There has been an exception to some of the slashers that have come out, like The Strangers, Wrong Turn, The Collector, and When the Strangers Call, and the same old slasher veterans with Leatherface, Chucky, Michael Myers, Jason, Ghostface, Freddy, and some more coming out with their remakes or sequels. Recently, a ton of movies have been turning huge profit, and have claimed commercial and audience success. Terrifier 1 and 2, Malignant, Black Phone, Scream 6 and 7, to name a few, have put horror back on the spotlight. These movies show that there's still a big audience for slasher movies, and it's without reason. Slashers are fun, entertaining, and just the best. Obviously, that's my opinion, but most people attach to slashers. They're the easiest to rewatch, and are different enough from each other to find it interesting. They're movies we don't have to think about, turning off our brain just watching a pleasure of the brilliant kills and turmoil we get to watch. Although most slashers are on the supernatural side, they still give us a scare because these killers look just like us. It gives the reality that we could die these horrible deaths we see on screen. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry if I missed any of your favorite slashers, but no, there's just so many. It was hard to include all of them, for else I'd be naming endless slashers in an entire video. Thanks for watching. Bye.